Hey, what's going on, everybody? It is a little bit after 3 o'clock Central Standard Time, so y'all know what this is. It's another episode of Book Talk Live. As always, we are joined by phenomenal guests who have done some amazing things, and today is no different. We are joined by recent Amazon #1 best-selling author, Mr. Hafeez Diwan. We launched his book yesterday, and he went #1 in 8 categories. How you doing today, sir?
Good. Thank you very much, Sugar Ray. Doing well. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Hey, so I could go on and on about you because just in the few weeks that I've actually known you, I've known you to be a great guy. Learned a few more things about you in the process of working with you. But I want you to introduce yourself. Tell the people a little bit about who is Hafeez Diwan.
Well, thank you, Sugar Ray. Well, I should begin by saying that I have learned from you as well. You've motivated me to go outside my comfort zone and do things that I was initially reluctant to do, and I'm grateful for that. I have a day job which is different from this. I write as a hobby, and I'm originally from Pakistan, and I came to this country in 1992. Okay, it was a very different country in 1992 than it is today in 2021. I mean, it's totally different. As you know, anybody who's over the age of 30 or 25 will realize that our country is very different now than it used to be. So anyway, that's when I came, and I have had a wonderful time here. I was in a place called Mobile, Alabama, for like 10 years. Then I think that's how long I was there. Then I was for a year in Birmingham, and then I've been in Houston since 2002, I believe. So I've been in Houston for the last 19 years, something like that. Yeah. So that's my background in brief as to where I have moved around and been. So.
Oh man, listen, that's and you're still only giving a brief overview, right? Because we know, like you said, you've been here for about 19 years and writing as a hobby. But even in just writing as a hobby, you've put out a few books to date, right? How many books have you put out so far?
Oh, I have. I'm forgetting. 4 or 5 books, actually 6 books, I think. One of them is a textbook, and I'm a co-author on that. That's in my profession, my day job profession. Then, I have this book, How to Love Obnoxious People and Why, which is one of them. There's a book I've written on on how to have instant willpower right away, because, everybody wants to reach their goals, and something that seems to be in short supply is willpower. And so it's not as difficult to find willpower. In fact, you can find it instantly. That's the point of this whole book. So that's another book. Then I have written a children's book, a young adult novel, and then I've written a work of comic fiction, comic thriller as well. I have 2 other self-help books that are completed. They just need to be edited, which I'm hopefully bring out in the next couple of years. Book I've written with my daughter, actually, and that is almost finished. Actually, just missing the last chapter, and then another kids novel that I've written. So just a few things here and there which I've written, and published wise, probably 5 or 6, I would say, that I published. So
Nice. Come on, man. Listen, you touched one of my heartstrings. You said you got a book with your daughter that's coming out. I can't wait to read that one, definitely.
thank
Right?
you,
What
thank you.
um what inspired this love of writing in you?
Well, I guess I just as a when I just from childhood, I love books. Actually, when I was a kid, my English out in Pakistan wasn't very good,
Mhm.
and my eldest sister, she actually made it her mission that she was going to teach me how to read and how to become good at English. And so she would every evening she would sit down with me. She's 7 years older than I am, and she would go over the grammar and go over things and just make me read stuff. And it came to the point where I became. I just read constantly. I became such a prolific reader that as a kid, because of what my sister sister's actions, and efforts. And so then I would read those stories, and I wanted to write some of those stories, some different stories, obviously. But so that's what's inspired me to write. And then, of course, the biggest problem as a child was I didn't know how to go about it, so I. I would write, and then I would scrap it, and then because I just wouldn't be able to finish it. But then when I was doing my residency in pathology in Mobile, Alabama, I said, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to write a novel. And I wrote a novel. It was terrible, actually, but I never published it. It was absolutely awful. Okay, but it was complete. So that was, once I got that out of the system, that I can do it, and I just have to do it better. So then then it became easier for me. Then I could write. When I said, I knew I'd done it once. Instead of riding a bike, you've written it once. You can write it again. So that's how it kind of came about, really.
You can't call it terrible though.
You haven't read it.
Listen,
Nobody's read it.
you said I just wanted to write and it was terrible. I understand. My first book was one of those books as well where it felt good, but when I look back on the initial production of it, it was like there's so much more that could be done. But I salute you because one of the things that you're touching on, you said that English is your second language. So English isn't even your native tongue, but you've written 6 books in English.
Correct. In fact, now my English is better than is the best language I speak. I mean, of course, I speak my native language, the one that we speak in Pakistan. And then we belong to small ethnic groups. So there's a third language, which I speak, but which isn't even written. It's not even a script. But now it's come to the point where I even dream in English. I think everything happens in English now because all these years of so I kind of sea change. It kind of flipped. So yeah.
No, absolutely, and that's kind of like when you are somebody that's from New York that moves to Texas. After a while, that New York accent goes away, or somebody from Texas. If we move away, most of it'll go away. Every once in a while, you'll hear those traces. Like, wait a minute, I can hear it in you.
Right, right, like that, exactly. Yeah.
I'm loving the fact that you there's so much even as we speak that I'm learning that we have in common. You said your sister is 7 years older than you. My sister is 9 years older than me. Yeah, and so
nice.
my work ethic comes from watching her. So I can definitely relate. What were some of your favorite books that you read along the way?
As a child, of course, I would kids' books. There used to be this famous English writer by the name of Enid Blyton, whom I don't think too many people know here, or maybe I'd be shocked if anybody knows her here. But she was very popular in my country, and she's popular in England. Used to be popular in England. So Enid Blyton was when I was growing up. Then, of course, when I grew a little older, I would read Agatha Christie. I love mysteries. In fact, I've written a mystery, which I didn't mention. My agent is shopping it around to see if he can find a publisher. But anyway, so I love mysteries, So I read a lot of Agatha Christie, and then now I read mostly nonfiction. Right now, I'm reading a wonderful book, and the fiction book that I'm reading right now that I really like. It's called Bewilderment by Richard Powers. It's superb. But I read nonfiction. Books about psychology, the mind. The philosophy, things like that. So you just not philosophy like hard philosophy, just like for laymen, for normal people,
Yeah.
So that's what I mean, And so that's the kind of stuff I read now. So and there's some great books that I have had a chance to read because of that. So so.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, I too share that love of nonfiction books. And I don't do as much reading now as I once did. I do a lot more listening to the audiobooks and such. But when I was younger, my love of reading grew in that I guess Pizza Hut used to have you get a personal pan pizza for every, I think it was like 5 or 10 books that you read.
Oh.
So over the summer, I would just go to the library and pick up like a stack of books like this and bring them back the next week because I just sit there and read. Some of them I read, some of them, I kind of feel
Uh-huh.
that I did to
Yeah,
get
yeah,
that free
yeah.
pizza.
Hey, nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. Yeah.
Yeah. So you like mysteries. What is it about the mystery writing that intrigues you?
Well, the mystery writing is the thing about it is that you have a puzzle, right? And then there is a solution, and usually the author has given little clues along the way, so that if a reader is paying attention, then he or she can figure out the solution. So it's this element of the puzzle and the solution, and that's what I like about almost all nonfiction or self-help or philosophy, because it's all begins with a riddle or a question or a puzzle. This book that I've written is also a puzzle. You have these horrible people, and of course the planet would be nicer without them, I think. But it's a puzzle. So is there a solution to it? So that's the whole thing, the puzzle and its solution, and the answers might be sitting right there in front of us, but we might not see them. And that's another aspect of the thing, because the best mysteries are, when the solution is staring you in the face and you're not seeing it, and that's the best. If you think about all the best self-help books or motivational books that you read, the truths are really quite straightforward. They're not complicated. It doesn't take rocket science to figure it out, but it's very hard to figure them out because we are looking for some this or that, or some solutions, or some strange answers, or some it's very straightforward, very simple. So that is what I think the element of attraction in a mystery is to me, which is the same as for everything else, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, when we come back, because we're getting ready to take a quick commercial break, but when we
Yeah.
come back, we're actually going to touch on we're going to dive into the book, and yeah, so we'll
All
be
right.
we'll be right back in about 2 and 2.
All right. Great. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Just really quickly, Sugar Ray, I actually have something that I just want to say to you. Um, try not to get all emotional, but I thank you. Is people come in your life at various times, whether it be a season, a lifetime, and I never expected to get to this point where I'm at right now. And these accountability calls have really just held me accountable. So I guess it's a good name to have, accountability calls. Is your spirit is just really powering, and it made me want to go further. I never thought about trying to have a business or seeing myself like actually going through these phases, and your words of encouragement have actually really just inspired me. So I thank you very much.
Hey, absolutely. Listen, um, we are back with Hafeez Diwan. Hafeez Diwan is the author of the Amazon #1 best-selling book, How to Love Obnoxious People and Why: The Life-Saving Art and Science of Loving Truly Horrible People. And now, for those of you who are tuned in, I'm pretty sure we all have an example of at least one person in our life that was, we can say it, truly horrible at one point or another. But Hafiz has taken the time and put together some tools and some tips for those of us who are out there dealing with these horrible people. So Hafiz, coming back to you, what was the inspiration for this book? How did you come up with this concept? Because it's definitely a interesting concept, and it's one that's needed.
So, uh, it begins with an obnoxious person, of course. So give full credit to the many obnoxious people in my life, including one special obnoxious person, and who turned my life topsy turvy. And I've been very lucky. In the since the 1992 29 years that I've been in the United States. I know that other people have not had similar experience, but I've probably had maybe 2 or 3 situations where I felt little, that there was an element of negativity based on the way I look, which I think, that's what we're talking about these days, right? Or there's a lot of that, that people are discriminated against on the basis of their religion or their gender or their skin color and so forth. So I've had just a few occasions. The one occasion I was telling you about, mentioning the other day, when I was fixing myself a cup of tea in a cafeteria in a hospital. This old geezer, I guess we can call him that, he came up to me and he looked at me, and I was wearing a lab coat and everything, because I was making my tea. This was after 5 in the evening. I was just, dunking the tea bag and adding the milk, and he comes up to me and he says, you know what the best answer or the best gift for a Muslim is, because he kind of figured out correctly that I'm Muslim. And I said, no, please enlighten me. What is the best gift for a Muslim? And he said that it's to fill his mouth with dirt, which I thought was interesting. And I thought that was just one of those things, which I said, that's not very nice. But I quickly finished fixing my tea and moved myself. I had a brief conversation with him, but then I moved on, because there was obviously no point in going further. But then a few years ago, I encountered this individual who was, I would say, the most detestable human being I have ever encountered. I don't think I've ever known anybody like this. It's a really loathsome toad of a man, and I couldn't stand him. Okay, and it's nobody but it's somebody that made me very feel awful inside. So I was feeling bad inside. And this guy didn't care, of course, because this guy was this guy. I mean, he was what he was. So it was like I was harming myself by first, because this guy was obnoxious, and then I was harming myself because of my own feelings, okay, which were toxic. And so I started doing some research into it, and I found that our own toxic feelings, they are harmful to our physical health and to our mental health, for real. It's in my book club. I don't have it right now. It's sitting somewhere. I don't know where the hammer is. But I usually show a hammer, where I say that, that sometimes, if you think of it this way, that you get so mad at someone that you want to hit yourself with a hammer. That's like, it's equivalent of what we do to ourselves when we react with negativity to anything. So we basically, our hostility and our negative feelings can harm us if we don't do something about them. Now, the doing something about them is also interesting, because while it is bad to feel hostility, it is also not healthy for us to squash it. In other words, you can't just shove those feelings aside or try to shove them aside and hope that they'll go away. That's like the pigeons. They close their eyes when a cat is approaching. It doesn't make the cat go away. And the pigeon's going to get eaten up. So that's not a very smart thing to do. So we can't take the pigeon approach here. So, and we can't squash them, because these feelings, they actually cause chemical and immunological changes inside us, which are harmful to us. So you can't express it when you feel mad. You can't squash it when you feel mad. You can't push it aside when you feel mad. So what do you do? So this was like a fascinating dilemma that I found myself in. And as it turns out, the answer has been in front of us for all these centuries. People have talked about it. It's a form of observation, self-observation, really, which enables you to come to a solution really quickly. It doesn't take years and years of practice. It's instantaneous, virtually, and it's very simple to do. And that is basically what I highlight in the book. That how to do it. It's again, like we were talking about mysteries. It's not rocket science. Okay, it is a very, very simple solution. It's like the murderer is in your face, and you never see it. If any of you readers want to read a good mystery, it's called Dead on Time. It may be out of print right now, or it may be from a used bookseller. But Dead on Time is excellent because, to me, one of my favorite mysteries, because the murderer is right there in the open, and no reader, I defy a reader to figure that murderer out, because it's so amazing that when the solution comes, oh my God, it should have been obvious. And the same is true for this problem. Okay, the problem that I encountered, it was a very difficult problem for me, but I have reached the stage where I no longer hate this individual. You could say, I feel compassion for this individual. You could even say, in some sense, I love this individual, because were it not for this individual, I would not have discovered this absolutely marvelous skill, which all of us have. And if you you know, when you think about it, this particular, when if you, whatever religion you belong to, it tells you to love your neighbors, and some neighbors can be jerks. It tells you to be kind to others. It tells you to have compassion, right? Love your enemies, right? All these things are very sensible pieces of advice, and these are the answers, which you can basically, what our current understanding of psychology shows us as well. So that's basically where I came from into this, and I kind of realized that this horrible person was my intro into this way of life. So I'm grateful to this person, really. So I have gratitude for him rather than irritation at this point in time. So it's kind of changed completely. So it works, and then I feel better about it. So I'm not harming myself. So I wanted to share that with people, which is what I have done. I've through this book and basically lectures based on this. I've given lectures in many places. I've done courses on this. I advise people informally about this, and formally. I'm getting set to do that, but I've been doing that for a while now. So I think this is a very simple, useful, easy thing to do, which is very achievable for all of us, really.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that because, yeah, we all have someone in our life that is, I'll say they push a button, right?
That's right.
So what would, without giving the all the secrets away, what are maybe 2 or 3 tips that you have for people who are watching that they can do to to love on those obnoxious people in their
So
lives?
so first and foremost, I think we need a dose of realism. Okay, we are in this world, and the world, we just found ourselves in the world one day, right? It doesn't have to conform to our expectations. It's the way it is. Okay, so the realism is that there was a famous Roman philosopher. He was actually an emperor of Rome called Marcus Aurelius. And he was a Stoic philosopher. If some of you might be interested in Stoic philosophy, there are lots of wonderful books on Stoicism. Stoicism is a great, great, great philosophy for those of you who are interested. But anyway, Marcus Aurelius, he had a piece of advice. So he wrote this diary for himself, which is called the Meditations of Marcus Aurelius. He wrote them for himself, but then after his death, they were published, and they have been studied by people for the last, I don't know, 1500 years, 2000. I don't know how long. I don't know when I think he lived before Christ, so maybe we're talking a long time. Okay, that he's been around. I can't remember exactly when he was around, but anyway. But the point is that one of his one of his pieces of advice for himself was to begin each day by reminding himself that he was going to run into insolence, jealousy, bickering, all sorts of negative behavior. Things are going to try to push him down. But to begin each day with that thought, because because when that thing happens, then you're prepared. It's not if you expect, that life is going to be perfect today, nothing bad's going to happen. Everybody's going to be marvelous, right? People are going to behave like rational human beings, and it's going to be great. Well, if you begin with that mindset, then you're going to be very upset. So you prepare yourself by saying, this is the way life is. You begin with that understanding, and that's the raw material you've got to work with. Once you accept the fact that life is going to be like that, then you are more able to deal with it without falling to pieces and having a nervous breakdown when somebody's rude to you in the grocery store, or somebody cuts in front of you in the traffic, or if somebody is looks at you funny. He's looking at you funny because that's his problem, not yours. So once you realize that, then that's a huge part of the battle. And then, of course, you have to understand that your own reactions are kind of standing in the way of your happiness. So then you are motivated to do something about it. So I think that motivation is very important for anything that you do. Okay, if if somebody said to you, oh, how would you like it if you had a creature 24/7 who is not toilet trained, who is keeping you awake at night, who is going to make your life, you won't be able to go to the movies, you won't be able to hang out with your friends, you'll be constantly stuck at home taking care of this demanding creature. Well, most of us willingly do this because when we have children, we are dealing with these children. So we have to have the motivation. If you're a person, I know people who don't have kids, and they don't want to have kids because they don't have the motivation to have kids. Or there may be some, of course, people can't have kids, but that's a different story. But then I'm talking about individuals who choose not to have kids. Well, for them, they are not motivated enough, and any amount of motivation, if you can't tell them, oh, it's so great to have a kid, because they're not motivated. So motivation is key. So you have to find the motivation, and you have to accept reality, and then you can progress on this journey. If you say to yourself, these horrible people are so horrible that I think it is absurd to love them, then of course you're going to have a problem. And in my book, actually, I had a whole chapter devoted to objections to love, to this whole philosophy, because of course it's reasonable. Somebody said, what's the big deal? Why should we love these horrible people? And the argument is that only by loving them are you going to discover something of infinitely more value than if you did not love them. So I think that so if that can help you find that motivation, it's like if you have to get to some place nice, and you have to walk through a marsh or some dirty place to get to it. I think if the treasure is good enough, then you will do that. And for us, that sticky, filthy marsh is obnoxious people. We have to kind of wade through that to get to it. So that is my argument. So have the motivation and accept reality, and then you can find yourself in a much better position. And then you can apply the skills that are laid out very simply, and then you got it made.
Yes, sir. Listen, I love that, because I love the fact that you're saying, you have to be motivated to love them, and knowing that you're going to learn something from them in the long run. Because I've learned a long time ago, you can learn something from everybody that comes into your life, whether it be for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. We've all heard that saying.
Yes.
But you're saying find that motivation to love them, because by loving them, you're going to gain so much more and so many more valuable jewels and lessons. And I truly love that. We're gonna take a quick another quick commercial break, and we will be right back once again in two, hearing from Mr. Hafeez Diwan.
All right.
Everybody has a story, and so do you. We know that you've been through life, been through heartaches, been through pain, been through depression. You've thought about writing your book for years, wanting to help change lives because of the things that you've overcome. We don't know what your story is, but we can help you turn your story into a living, breathing book that creates opportunities for you to impact lives and change the world. The business of books is here to teach you the opportunities that come from your book, how to write your book, how to brand yourself, how to market your book, and how to get in front of the right people to sell that book. We have an amazing team of designers, an amazing team of editors. We have a team behind you to help you get through your first book and get it to the world, so that the world knows you are here. So remember, everybody has a story. It's time to write yours. Hey, 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 and we are back. We are back. If you're just now tuning in, you are in for a phenomenal treat because we are joined again by the number one best-selling author, Mr. Hafeez Diwan, whose book, How to Love Obnoxious People and Why, right? And why the life-saving art and science of loving truly horrible people is joining us today, and he's already shared so many jewels with us about what is the science behind loving, what was the motivation, and just a few things that we've learned about him. Here's a man who has published 6 books already, and this is English is not even his native tongue. So saying that not to take away from Hafeez, but to say to some of you out there who are saying, it's not gonna be right, it's not gonna be perfect. His first book, he said, he just had to write it to get it out the way, to get that excitement out and then move on to the next one. So we've already Hafeez, we've already talked about your journey, we've already talked about the motivation, but I want to hear a little bit more about your writing process. Like, what's your writing process like? What are the things that you do for
Oh,
each book?
okay. So once I don't outline. So that's one thing I don't do, because I find different people have different ideas. I have an idea, okay, sort of a sketchy idea of what I'm going to be writing about. I have a sense of where I'm heading without having a very strict, rigid outline. Some people need a strict outline. I don't. So and then as I was writing with my daughter, I mentioned, so one of the things I was teaching her that, the thing called writer's block. Okay, the solution to a writer's block, in my opinion, is that you just know what you're going to write. For example, if all you're going to write is that that today you're going to talk about making the trash and putting it out and on the street and the troubles you encounter on the way, well, that's what you're going to write about. Then the block is gone, because as long as you know what to write about, you write it. The second thing is, when I write, I give myself the children's book that I wrote, the young adult novel. I actually gave myself the task of writing every day for 20 minutes. Okay, regardless of whether I whether I was interested or not, no matter how tired I was, no matter how crappy the writing. Can I say? I don't know if I can say crappy or not, but how pathetic the writing was. Okay, so so as long as those 20 minutes were done, okay, then that was it. And one thing which I learned, which I actually mentioned in my Willpower book, is that there is this thing called stick.com, STICKK, 2Ks.com. These two psychologists, I think they were psychologists, they discovered that one way we can stick to our goals is to tell others about it. So in my case, it would be, I would tell everybody that, look, I'm going to write 20 minutes every day, period. Okay, no matter how awful I felt or how much I was uninterested in it. So I write 20 minutes a day, or you could have picked 15 minutes, you could have picked 10 minutes, whatever you pick, right? And then the other thing was that any week that I missed even one day of that 10 minutes or 15 minutes or 20 minutes, in my case it was 20 minutes, I would make a $5 donation to President X's library. Of course, in my case, the President X would be a president I would never vote for. So depend on, let's say you love a particular candidate. So that's a negative incentive. So, I don't want $5, even 1 cent to go to a president that I don't like. So in my case, it was the presidential library of a president that I couldn't stand. So I said that this is the president whose library is going to get my $5 if I miss even a single day. So these scientists, they discovered that when you tell other people about your thing and your friends and family, and in my case, I put it on Facebook, and then if you give yourself a negative incentive, okay, then that can inspire you to write. So basically, that's I only did it for that book. I gave myself an 8-week goal, and I finished that book in 7 weeks of 20 minutes. And that was the first draft. Once the first draft is completed, then that's what you need, right? Then you can work on it. The thing that I absolutely don't even pay attention to is perfectionism, because I don't care how bad or how lousy the writing is. It's just got to be on. You can always fix it and change it, and And if writing is, if you find that some pieces are not going to show it to others, you can even, I'm sure there are services that can help people as well. So whatever, you need to get that first draft. So that's the way I approach it. So have an idea, know exactly rather know that what you're going to write about a particular day. Because it's when you don't know what to write about that then you're saying, you're staring at the page and what do I write about? As long as you know, even if it is something very trivial or pointless or just nothing, you have something to write about, and then you can move on to the next thing. And sometimes you'll be writing, say, I wish I'll say about what I wrote yesterday, I need to change it, and you can go back and change it to something that fits with what you have now. But the point is, if you give yourself a small goal, like 5 minutes, even 5 minutes, because sometimes what happens is, and I've discovered it, is that and I've even given myself a 5-minute task on days, okay, is that when you get into it, you'll say, okay, 10 minutes will pass, 15 minutes, or 20 minutes, 30 minutes have passed sometimes. I might have started with a 10-minute goal, but then when I finish, oh boy, 30 minutes have passed because you were into it. So that's how I approach it. It's very simple. It's not complicated. It doesn't require willpower. I'll tell you that, because all you're doing it is working, is tricking I think it's kind of tricking yourself. You trick yourself into writing, because some of its writing, as you know, can get to be get to be annoying at times. It's not always it's not like right. So you know what it's like. So that's my approach. That's how I approach it. So that's my style. That's my way of approach.
Yeah, and I love all of that, because you one of the first things you said was accountability, right? Once you tell your goals, you have to stick with it. Most people, and this isn't everybody, because I know if I tell somebody I'm going to do something, that's my accountability to myself, because I don't want to make myself out to be a liar. And then you said give yourself a negative goal, like you said, the $5 donation to someone's campaign fund or someone's library that you don't enjoy, right? And I can honestly see that being motivation for me as well. The last thing, I love it, because you said get past the perfectionism. Give yourself a daily writing goal and write for that amount of time each and every day. I love that, but I'm gonna throw something in there. If you do get to the end of that first draft and you need that help, then definitely reach out. We got a full service team, so we can help you with that editing process. But I love it. Your writing process is similar to mine. The only difference in ours is that I have to have that outline, because my mind has so many things going on all at once. And if I don't stick with an outline, then it's gonna be all over the place. Yes, sir. So what, while you're writing, let's say you give yourself that 10-20 minute goal and it runs into 30. Do you take away later, or what do you?
That's a bonus. So it's like extra. It doesn't matter. Because it's like, if you I don't know, it's not a good example, but let's say that if you want to buy something, okay, and you feel guilty about buying it, okay, it's because let's say it's a $50 thing that you don't want, that you feel guilty about buying, okay. The best time to buy it might be when you going on a vacation and you spend $2,000. Let's say what's 50 more dollars. So then you say, okay, fine, I'll buy it now. So it's like a psychological trick. So when it's kind of similar to that, what happens is that when you have committed yourself to 10 minutes and you find that 30 minutes have passed, hey, it doesn't count towards tomorrow. That's extra. That's just happened. It's also kind of similar to what is known as good procrastination, which is another psychological trick. It's also in my Willpower book, by the way. So good procrastination is that, supposing you want to eat ice cream, okay? Sometimes you're just craving an ice cream, right? But you know that, but let's say you don't want to eat this ice cream because you feel that it's bad for you. So what is good procrastination? Good procrastination, very simply, is you'll say to yourself, okay, I'll definitely go to Baskins and Robbins and get it, but I'll do it next hour. I'll do it in an hour from now, okay? And because we are superb procrastinators, you will keep delaying most of the time. So it's very funny. Your inertia is greater than your desire to have the ice cream, most of the time. Sometimes, of course, the desire to eat the ice cream might be overpowering. But many people who engage in good procrastination find that it actually benefits them because it's a very simple trick. As long as you don't have ice cream in the fridge, it works. If you have to go somewhere and get the ice cream, then you can keep delaying it and do what you're good at, which is procrastination. Everybody's good at procrastination. So, we can use that. So this is known as good procrastination. And it's very helpful. And it's very good for when you put yourself, have a goal like writing. Because if you're saying to myself, would I rather go to Baskins and Robbins and have some ice cream, or should I write for 10 minutes? But you have to write for 10 minutes because you've made that goal for yourself. So you say to yourself, okay, I'm going to first let me just write these 10 minutes down, and after I'm done, I'll go get the ice cream. What's going to happen is after 10 minutes might stretch out to 20 minutes, and then something else might come up. There might be some Netflix thing you want to see. Something else shows up. And then before you know it, it's past the time that you want the ice cream. The desire to have the ice cream has gone away. You're now ready for dinner, whatever. So, you fool yourself into doing the right thing, and whatever you consider to be the right thing. So that's a way of approaching it, I think. So.
Man, listen, I'm loving it because these are definitely life hacks and mindset hacks. And we'll come back and talk more about these mindset hacks in another minute or so. Take one last commercial, and we will be right back with best-selling author Hafeez Diwan.
Hello guys, this is Chip Baker of Chip Baker, the Success Chronicles. So many things I've learned from the experience of working with Sugar Ray Destin and Business of Books Mastermind. The people that are involved, the team, they're all great. They all do great work. Made us best-selling authors. We learned so much in the process, learned so much how to grow together, learned how to grow individually in our projects that we did, our visionary projects. But it's been a great experience. You won't be disappointed in doing work with them. Go get it.
All right, and we are back. We're back for the final stretch with Amazon #1 best-selling author Hafeez Diwan, author of How to Love Obnoxious People and Why: The Life-Saving Art and Science of Loving Truly Horrible People. And I'm pretty sure everybody in their life has at least one person that they can sit back and say, yeah, I know that person. It might be the coworker that you're working with. It might be a teacher. It might be, your worst student. I don't know. But there's somebody that we've all had can we put it in parentheses? The pleasure of being around. But Hafeez has given us some strategies. He's given us some tools and some resources and some mindset hacks for dealing with these people. And so I want to touch on you as a coach, Hafeez, because you are a mindset strategist, right? Help us break that down. What are some of the things that you do to help others to improve or change and shift their mindsets?
So mindset is basically everything. That's basically depending on what it says, right? The two people, they look out of the bars and one sees the mud and the other seeing the stars, right? It's because of their mindset. Okay, so and the point of view is basically which is very important. So if you go into something with a negative mindset, it's like having a filter in front of you. I don't know if you've heard this joke. This guy runs into a psychiatrist at a party and he says, my brother thinks he's a chicken. And the psychiatrist says, oh, I actually am an expert in helping people not think they are chickens. So you bring him to me and I'll have him fixed in no time. And the guy says, no, I can't do that because we need the eggs. So the point is that this guy has his mindset is that he is stuck in that particular groove, and he cannot, the help, which is very easy to get, he cannot get it because of his mindset. So the mindset is all there is. So in everybody, I think has the two ideas going in. They want to do something, like, and we use the example of the same ice cream that we talked about. Let's say that you want to get that ice cream, and but then there's another part of you that wants to do the work, right? So the coaching aspect of would be to simply say, look, don't keep the ice cream in your house, okay, number one, and then every time you go to get an ice cream, okay, you might counteract it with some positive action, okay. These are little strategies, just little skills that everybody can do, simple things, okay, because all of us have the ability to do simple things. If you can pick up a phone or brush your teeth, these are all things. If you ever see a child walking or learning to walk or brushing their teeth, it's not easy, but we have mastered it. You've mastered how to drive a car. You have mastered to tie your shoelaces. All of us have mastered all sorts of things. And so the coaching aspect of it is to remind people honestly that what is the thing that can benefit them is in their lives already. They're just not seeing it. So to kind of goad them to that mindset, and they have to come to it themselves. It's not like you can't ram it, shove it down somebody's throat. It has to grow organically. So that is what I try to do, is to when I have to help somebody in this area, I simply I goad them. I kind of help them see what is in there, what they might have missed in their life, which can help affect mindset change. And then there, once we understand mindsets and how important they are, and there are all these little, you use the word life hacks. There's so many life hacks that one can use to get to the right mind, and to get to I wouldn't say right mindset, because what's right for me might not be right for you, but to a mindset that will help you achieve your goals. So that is how I approach this matter.
Man, listen, I love that because when you start talking about mindset, it's like you said, the glass is at half empty versus half full, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I read somebody said, the optimist said the glass is half full. The pessimist said the glass is half empty. And then the
Mm-hmm.
opportunist came along and drank the glass.
Right,
So it's all about which mindset are you really going to feed into. And then you said that, a lot of times what people need is right there at their disposal, but their mindset won't let them touch it.
exactly.
Help me with that one, because I know where you're going, but somebody needs to have that one broke down just a little bit more.
So, for example, I'll tell you a story. Okay, so there's this guy. He says, "Do you have eggs?" I says, "Yes." Do you have flour? The guy says, "Yes." Do you have sugar? The guy says, "Yes." Do you have milk? The guy says, "Yes." Do you have cooking oil? He says, "Yes." So why, for God's sake, don't you make yourself a cake? Because you have all these elements. They are there.
Ingredients.
Okay,
Yeah.
you just put them together, make a cake. And because maybe you have the mindset that making a cake is very difficult. Well, the first time you do anything is difficult, right? So, but if a cake is your desire, and you're now thinking, oh shoot, my car's broken down and I can't go to the bakery, and I want this cake and there's no way for me to get this cake, then you have all the elements in your house. Put them together, make a bad cake, but make it. And even a bad cake will taste, because it's all in the mind, right? So in the sense that if you have labored over this cake, then even if it doesn't turn out to be great, the enjoyment that you made this cake will more than make up for it. Also, if you're hungry at that point, there's a Spanish saying, and I don't know the exact Spanish for it, but translated, it means hunger is the best salsa. The best sauce you need is hunger. Okay. If you are hungry, then even I've been to some really crappy restaurants, but when I was hungry, I loved it. So even a cracker is going to taste. If you really want to have a good meal and you say, "Oh, I'm not enjoying food," just to starve yourself for a short while, and then you'll find anything tasty. So it's basically that little tricks, and to have a sense of humor, because I think if we become too serious about stuff, then I think it's like you begin losing the battle. I think we have to. I mean, we have to see the humor of our situation, whatever situation we're in. Now, sometimes some situations, obviously, if you're in a situation where there's a lot of grief in it and stuff, I'm not talking about that. But in other simple situations, when you have a pet peeve, anybody who drives in Houston, can find like 900 pet peeves on the road. Okay, but if you take it in a whimsical or just a relaxed way, then you might see differently. But if you're again if you're in that angry mindset, then you're not going to be able to navigate that, because then you're going to be upset. So so that's how I think, and that's what I mean when I say that you have the ingredients, okay, and it is just putting them together. And this is something which almost everybody can do. I mean, there are exceptions, of course. Obviously, I'm not talking about patients who have certain problems which need to be looked at by professionals, therapists and so forth. That's a different story. I'm talking about I'd say the vast majority of people who thankfully do not have these sorts of issues that need professional help, but who are just stuck because they can't see the next step, who doing the wrong thing, like this. I told you, I think yesterday, that I post these jokes on Facebook every day. I try to do it every day, but it's not every day. But it's like, a joke a day with a little analysis. So one joke I posted was this woman who goes in a mall. She goes to the manager and she says, "You have a very idiotic sign by the escalator." And they say, "What's the idiotic sign?" It says, "Dogs must be carried on the escalator." And the manager says, "Yeah, but they have to be carried, because if they're not carried on the escalator, then they'll get trapped. It's dangerous for the dog, it's dangerous for the people." And so she's kind of tugging at this dog as she's talking, and she says, "Yeah, but that may be right, but it took me 3 hours to find this dog." So what she was doing was that she was simply not formatting. She was not seeing she was seeing the information but drawing the wrong conclusions from it. And we do that all the time, unthinkingly. So we have to just see the situation more clearly, and that can help things much better.
Absolutely. And I'm with that 100%, because a lot of people, like you said, you have the ingredients of what it takes. You have for most of us, and like you said, God forbid, but for most of us, we have our limbs, we have our lungs, we have our physical capabilities, and it's the thing that slows us down the most is mindset.
Mm-hmm.
Or as I like to call it, grind set. If you're not willing to put in the work behind the activity, there's not going to be any results.
Right.
And so I love that that you're helping people to shift their mindsets into how can I, as opposed to I can't. As they say, the word impossible is the biggest joke in the dictionary, because the word impossible is actually 3 words. I am possible,
Mm-hmm.
put together, right? So one last question: what is your motivation? What do you want to leave behind for your readers and for the world?
Very simply, that that there are a lot of resources that all of us have. Just like you mentioned, if you have your health, okay, then that's a lot to be grateful for, right? There are so many things we can all be grateful for, and there are so many things that we can do with what we have. We can, it's like, if you wanted to travel, okay, and you had a car and you didn't know what a car was, you could take it down and try to make a boat out of it, or try to do something to create some other device, but what you have is the car. So we are people who have a car, but just have not figured out that we have to ride it and drive it. And so that's what I want to I have to when I'm in social settings, I have to keep my mouth shut many times because I see people talking, and I see a point of view, which I'm saying this point of view is the problem, is the reason why you're in this situation. But I'm not going to say that in a social setting. I just enjoy the tea and the cakes. But the point is that I think that I could say, well, this way that you're thinking is part of the problem, and maybe if you thought slightly differently, then the problem would go away. So this is what I want to leave with people, that look, it may seem normal to hate horrible people, but there's nothing normal about it. It's just what you are doing. There have been thousands of people, philosophers, religious teachers, so forth, who have said the exact opposite. They've said, don't hate these people, love people. And because it is very smart to do so. So that's what I want to leave people with, little tips and techniques that they can use to improve their lives. That's my motivation, really, just to help people. And then if people are happy, then they're not going to be mean and nasty to each other. So that's kind of how it happens. If large number of people are nice to feel good inside, they won't be mean to others. So it'll improve the situation one person at a time. That's my goal.
There we go. Listen. I've enjoyed the conversation. Learned a lot about you. Like I said, both have a love for writing. Well, I don't have a love for writing. I hate writing, but I do have a love for books. And we both have that older sister that kind of pushed us and motivated us.
Mm-hmm.
And so one thing that I will leave with the audience is, if you have not already, make sure you go to Hafeez's website, hafeezdiwan.com, and it's on your screen, hafeezdiwan.com. Grab your autographed copy from his website. That way he can go ahead and autograph it and send it off to you. The book is amazing. It's phenomenal. It shares some exciting, engaging tips on how to love those truly obnoxious people in our life and why we should love them, right? So once again, this has been another episode of Book Talk Live. We will see you guys next week. Love y'all.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Sir.